My name is Tyler Braun. I'm the Director of Financial Planning with the Tranel Financial Group. I'm here to talk about some investment strategies, right? The strategy we're going to focus on today is called double compounding. And this is not something that you hear commonly in the investment world, but it's a strategy that we utilize with clients all the time. So the definition of double compounding is I want you to imagine your investment as a bucket. And typically, most people see this bucket and they see themselves making contributions into it. So for example, let's say a 401k or a 403b, or maybe you have a Roth IRA, right? You have this investment and you're making periodic contributions into it, right? We've done previous videos on dollar cost averaging, which is another way to make contributions every pay period or systematically into an account, right? Ultimately, what double compounding is doing is it's taking dollar cost averaging to the next level. So you're still making your contributions into that bucket, and by doing that, you're acquiring shares. But where the rich get richer, or where you can utilize your money to make you more money, is by having another avenue of contribution go in at the same time. So for example, a lot of clients will come to us and they'll be talking about their match with their employer. They don't necessarily even understand what it is or what percent that they're able to get a match. And sadly, a lot of people aren't even maximizing that benefit. So when we look at double compounding, think of that 401k. You're making contributions every pay period to take advantage of the volatility, to reduce your average share price, to acquire more shares over time and get bigger gains. Ultimately, your employer, in many cases, is also making a contribution into that same bucket. So now you're acquiring even more shares by getting a match on your contribution, right? So for example, if you're making a 6% or a 7% contribution and your employer is matching you dollar for dollar, that's another 6% that's going in right on the top. That's an immediate benefit to you that you can take part in, right, to increase your net worth, but also accumulate more shares. So let's take a step back and look at this even further, okay? If you were making a contribution of, let's say, $10,000 per year into the 401k, right? You're acquiring shares throughout the year. If your employer, let's say, is matching you up to 50% of that contribution, that's an additional $5,000 that's going into that bucket to accumulate more shares. And most people say, well, while I'm working, yes, I understand that I'm getting a match. But what they don't understand is when they retire, how to continue to double compound your money. And that is the key phrase, right? So when you're retired, you may have dividends that are going into that account. We talked about that during a previous video, right? So continuing to dollar cost average in retirement is utilizing investments that generate a form of yield that will be reinvested back into the account to buy more shares, get you more yield in the future, and ultimately acquire more shares that can get you bigger gains over time, right? Ultimately, the double compounding comes with by looking at the specific investments that you're investing in and utilizing raises. Who doesn't want to raise in retirement, right? So a key phrase that we talk about a lot are dividend aristocrats or dividend champions. So a dividend aristocrat, by definition, is a company that has increased a dividend for 25 consecutive years. So I'm going to repeat that. Not just paid a dividend, but has increased a dividend for 25 consecutive years. A dividend champion is typically a company that has increased a dividend for 10 consecutive years. Right? So when you start looking at companies like that, you have the yield or dividend reinvesting back into that bucket. And in addition to that, you have a raise or an increase coming every single year that has been something that you can count on for the past 25 years or 10 years in that example, and it just continues to add more and add more and add more. And it creates a snowball effect where you're able to double compound that wealth in retirement even when you're no longer making contributions.